Hi guys, awesome. I was watching questions come by and they are all fantastic. So let's get started. Here we go. You've said before that your preference is towards games you play with rather than against. Early parts of this game seem to fall more into the with side of things, and now we're progressing into against territory. Is that your experience, and is that typical or atypical of modern 2D platformers? I don't know how much I can speak to modern 2D platformers, because I don't play that many of them. I mean, I guess I can sort of talk about the ones that I have played. Modern 2D platformers. So my experience would be like Super Meat Boy, Limbo, oh, that one puzzle platformer with the clones, the Swapper. But 2D platformers are not really my jam, and so I definitely like. There are a lot of them that I haven't played, so I don't know that I can speak to them as a genre or the sort of like trends therein. But I can talk about my experience, and so yeah, to a certain extent, I think that's very astute. Like I'm the early parts of this game, all I could talk about was how like it felt like I was really good at it, and it was guiding me really well and really smoothly. I like hardly ever died, and some of that I think is just like a difficulty curve. Game starts out really easy. It stays really easy for longer than most games do. Most games have a steeper difficulty curve than this, but I agree. I actually feel like there's a playfulness to this game, especially given the way that it starts out, where like, you know, it starts out with essentially that little semi-interactive movie sequence, and that was very cool. That felt 100% like the game was playing with me. Like, you know, it was giving me the tools to experience the what it wanted me to experience, to sort of like go through its experience, and that was cool, and that. Maybe just set a tone that sort of put me in the frame of mind to think about the game as playing with me. And then the fact that it was easy sort of let me continue to think about it that way. We are moving now into a place where the game is getting harder, and I am dying quite a bit, and I'm having to sort of practice specific skills until I wouldn't say master them, but you know, can perform them adequately, and all of that is a much more like challenging sort of thing. Again, that feels sort of like it's part of a natural difficulty curve. I don't know that I feel I continue to feel like the game is kind of holding my hand. The game is like the game has a thing that it wants me to experience, and that is tied up in its narrative, even though its narrative is very flimsy. Its narrative is sort of a skeleton that guides me around. It's mostly around its level design and the atmosphere. What this game is really about is the sense of atmosphere from moment to moment, and the way that it controls that. It wants me to experience that, and part of getting me to experience that, part of the experience of it, is is the game not always being easy. There being like challenging moments and parts that are gonna kill me. But I don't. Hi, Shiro. Yeah, no, there's nothing in there. Come on, come down, babe. Part of the experience that is the game getting more difficult, but I don't ever feel like the game is out to get me. In the way that, for example, Super Meat Boy is fucking out to get me, right? Like that game is extremely satisfying when I personally, it doesn't, like, that's not my game. But I understand like how that game is extremely satisfying, and it is built, it's designed really well around that moment where at the end where you see all of your different lives go through the level and get absolutely destroyed, except for the one that like finally makes it through. That's an extremely satisfying moment, and the game is entirely built around that. And for the game to be built around that, it's got to just like fucking kill you all the time. Limbo, same thing. I mean, like, it depends on how you define this. Like, I'm thinking about this, like, this is super ambiguous. What does it mean to be playing with a game versus against the game? And that's just like a thing that I said because it feels right, and like I will continue to say it. But those are not well-defined terms, right? Like Super Meat Boy, clearly there's a well-defined experience there that involves throwing all kinds of fucking ridiculous saw blades at you and killing you 100 times until you get through the level. And so in that respect, like, yeah, the game is playing with me. It's got a thing that it wants me to experience. It's trying to make me experience it. Part of why I feel differently about Super Meat Boy and Limbo is that the thing that it, like the way that it goes about trying to make me experience it is harsh. It just doesn't feel friendly, and a lot of that has to do with framing. This game, Ori, the way that it's framed, the way that it starts, the way that like the difficulty curve is so smooth and so shallow at the beginning, all of that really makes me feel, it allows me to connect with the game before it gets hard. And so when it gets hard, my experience of its difficulty is very different. I'm not like frustrated by just dying over and over and over again. Some of that is the design of the game, right? With, you know, allowing me to create save points and doing all of that stuff. Like, the game is very friendly towards making me feel like I have control over how I go through it. And yeah, parts of it are hard and parts of it kill me. Parts of it kill me several times until I get past them. But I feel differently about that. And I think that that has everything to do with how the game leads me up to that moment. Good. How the game leads me up to that moment. Rather than like, you know, it being fundamentally different as a designed experience than some of these other platformers. Good. I feel like I talked around that question without answering it for a long time. Eve White, would this game be better if there were dragons in it? Jumping in for jet lag. Thank you. I think it does. It was pointed out to me that Ori probably is not a cat with like pointy ears and wings. Ori is probably like a baby dragon, right? I guess I still don't know. Like Ori still kind of looks like a cat with wings to me, but I don't know. I actually wonder what the canonical answer is. So but that's where I see the dragon, I guess, if the game were to have a dragon in it, I think that it would be a cute little furry white dragon, and that's the character that you would play, and I think it would play just the same. Your light box looks good. Did you thank the gift giver profusely? I believe that I did. I have attempted to. I'm like super pleased with it. I think that it like helps this be a little bit slightly more of a professional operation, which is sort of a laughable statement, but it takes me up a notch, and I think it was an extremely thoughtful gift. Yes, thank you, gift giver. What do you think about the repetition of enemies in the game? Is it boring to face the same type of amorphous blob, or is it interesting enough that such enemies can change color and attack style slightly and still be satisfying to engage constantly? So my experience of this so far is definitely satisfying. I am not I have a really good sense of flow, right, in terms of the enemy design and placement. I think one of the things to keep in mind is that, at least in a 2D platformer, we have a lot of precedent saying that you don't need a ton of enemy variety, like diversity of enemies, in order to create a compelling game. Look at, you know, any of the first three. I say first three, the second one is not really. Okay, well, look at Super Mario Brothers 1 and 3. That's a safe thing to say. I guess 3 does get like kind of crazy, and it's got bosses and things. Super Mario 1, right, that's an incredibly solid, incredibly well-designed, foundational 2D platformer. It's got like, what, 5? Probably more than that. Probably more than I would estimate. But it's still, like, if you think about that game, it's got quite a limited palette of enemy types. And, oh yeah, I'm not thinking about like the underwater levels and stuff. So there's more. But the other thing that's sort of really interesting about that is that it introduces them all pretty early. Like, it doesn't hold them back. It's sort of like, I mean, this isn't entirely true. Nothing that I say is entirely true. And also, I haven't played this game in a long time. But when I think about Super Mario Brothers, I think about this like sort of standard set of enemy types. You've got, you know, you've got Goombas, and you've got a couple different types of Koopa Troopas, and then I guess you've got squids and the piranha plants, and like, what else do you have? Like that's like, there is a huge chunk of that game that is just those enemies, and no other types of enemies, and that doesn't get old. Like, the game is all about putting those enemies into interesting positions in well-designed levels that force you to encounter them in different ways, and so you know, it doesn't feel like you're just doing the same thing over and over again, even though the enemies that you're seeing are the same enemies over and over again. And also, I mean, like, the difference between a Goomba and a Koopa Troopa is not huge. I mean, like, it mostly happens after they die. That's where the real difference is. So I feel like that's a game that I can say there's not an enormous amount of diversity of enemies, and it doesn't matter. Like, the level design, the placement, the sort of creation of the situations in which you are encountering those enemies, that's what it's all about. This game, I feel like, is doing the same thing. It's doing it well. It has significantly more of a diversity of enemies than Super Mario Brothers did, and it's introducing them in a very like step-by-step way, where the game is quite linear in terms of the areas that I go to, and so it can control very tightly like when I encounter different types of enemies, and it can pace that out, and it does. And you know, I feel at this point like I've seen quite a few different things, and they behave kind of significantly differently, and maybe it's not as obvious when you're watching, but certainly when I'm playing, like there's a lot of difference between the amorphous blob that shoots like several little shards, and the amorphous blob that shoots one sort of lob of you know, goo straight at me, and the amorphous blob that shoots like several different blobs that then turn into magma and explode. And those are like three of the most similar types of things, but they all actually handle quite differently. Like I have to think about them kind of differently when I encounter them. And then the game goes further by putting them in all kinds of different situations where like I am forced to approach them differently. Now, narratively, I mean, I guess from like a dramatic standpoint, they're pretty much all amorphous blobs. And again, like I don't 100% understand what's happening to this forest, or like why it's blind and all of the trees are dying, except for that there's like an evil owl that hates everything. Like I don't know what these amorphous blobs are or why they're there, but that's okay. Like I don't really need to. They are visually differentiated well enough that I can tell what I'm getting into, and mechanically they are different enough that I feel like I have to approach them all differently. And so far they've been well integrated into the level design so that every time I sort of encounter one, it's quite a bit of a different challenge. So you know, in answer to the question, like, is it boring to face the enemies that we face in the game? I haven't found it so at all. It's worked pretty well for me. I mean, honestly, I think if you try to do too much with enemy design, first of all, that's a production nightmare. But secondly, as a player, every time you introduce a new enemy, like new fundamentally different sort of enemy, you're asking me to learn something new about the game, about how to play the game and about the game world. And that's great. Like, asking me to learn things is spot on, really, really good. That's what you want your game to do. But you need to pace that. You need to ask me to learn things at a pace that I can maintain and that feels challenging but doable. And I feel like that's what this game is doing. Like, it is introducing new enemy types and new situations in which I face enemies at a like really, really solid, really clean, really effective pace. Okay. Oh, now there's too many questions. All right, I'm just gonna keep going. How did you get started with game development? Did you make any games before you went to USC? If so, what were they like? I am planning on doing an AMA. I did an AMA, you know, in stream several months ago. I don't remember when exactly. Just because like I was done with stuff. I'm gonna do another one at some point coming up. I don't have it planned out exactly. Maybe when I play the beginner's guide, there will be an AMA associated with that, like a Q&A, and I don't know, whatever. So I can go more into depth in this stuff then if you want. Just real quick, in undergrad, when I was young, I loved games. I taught myself to program a little bit and enjoyed it as a hobby. I I would sort of make games in my spare time, but just kind of dabbling. When I went, what's up, cat? No, you can't go in the closet. It's just there's clothes in there. I don't know what you care about. When I went to undergrad, I took my first formal programming class and totally fell in love with it. And that became my major, and that's what I did. In my senior year in undergrad, I took a class on that was a cross-disciplinary between computer science and women's studies. That was about it was called Women in Computer Games. It was mostly about the sort of cultural context and portrayal of women in computer games, but it touched on a bunch of different things. That class blew my mind and made me think about games as cultural objects for the first time, and I loved it. But it was, the end of my senior year, so I got a job as a programmer for no particular reason, just because it was a good job at a research lab associated with USC. And from there, I met some people who were in the game design program at USC and realized, holy shit, that's a career path, and I don't have to go straight into AAA. I can... What? Baby. Just come here. I'll pet you. I could go into academia, which was really appealing to me, and I could sort of work with a group of people who were really I felt a bond with, and yeah, I could that seemed really cool. That seemed like what I wanted to do. So I did that. I got my graduate degree at USC, an MFA in interactive media, and then since then I have been working at USC in a different research lab doing game design, and also teaching and doing other things. But did you make any games before you went to USC? So yeah, as a child, I made a number of the kinds of games that you might make as a child. One of them was a multi-level, I don't know how to describe that, like a multi-story triangular version of chess that made no fucking sense. I did a number of Nintendo era style 2D platformers that involved changing your player character and getting new abilities every time you did that. I was really kind of enamored of the idea behind A Boy and His Blob when I got the Nintendo Power magazine that featured that. The actual game I think was not that great, but I loved the idea of it, and so I had so I would draw out levels on graph paper, but I never actually made those games because that was too much work. And then when I started programming, I made some text-based. Well, I never finished anything, I don't think, but I got halfway into some text-based RPG style, JRPG sorts of things, where I was figuring out how to do combat loops and exploration and how to portray, how to store nodes of a map in a data format that then the game could sort of walk around. I did a lot of that stuff unbelievably naively. I was programming in QBasic, and I remember at one point I got just really discouraged because because I didn't understand how loops worked. I just copied and pasted code over and over and over again, and eventually reached the memory limit for a QBasic program. And at that point I was like, well, I don't know what to do now. And then at one point I got Visual Basic as a Christmas gift from my parents, and I was so excited. I've never been more excited about a Christmas present than to get that, you know, expensive programming language compiler and dev environment. And I made some HyperCard style, like, you know, point and click, like Myst-like sorts of adventure games in that. But again, I got discouraged when I sort of, without realizing what an uncompressed bitmap file is, I was using uncompressed bitmaps for all of my images, and so quickly ate up the entirety of the 800 megabytes that computer had on its hard disk. So that was a lot of my like childhood games. And then when I worked as a programmer, I did a bunch of games with like my design partner at the time was Jamie Antonise, who's an amazing designer and an awesome guy. And we made a bunch of different kinds of games. I helped him on like his thesis project, which was a recombinant spatial narrative exploration game that was about exploring narrative space in a non-linear time format. It was kind of a crazy idea. And then but we did like several different forms of that, and we did some like just digital card set collecting kinds of games while I was teaching myself JavaScript and stuff like that. None of it is super exciting until I went to grad school and started to learn like what the fuck I was actually doing. Okay, that was much. I said that I would go into detail at a later time, so I'm glad I didn't go into any kind of detail just now. I will answer a couple more questions. There's a lot of ground denial in the enemy arsenal. We're talking about Ori and the Blind Forest again, in case you missed that. We're going back to the game. There's a lot of ground denial in the enemy arsenal. How's that going to shape up once you have to do that and platform at the same time? They're not going to make me do that, right? Like, that's probably not something that I'm going to have to deal with. That sounds hard. So actually, okay, seriously, yeah, there is a lot of ground denial in the game so far, but a lot of it is optimization. So for me, the easiest way to deal with these enemies is to just jump around a lot. But in fact, I don't need to jump. Like if I move well, if I'm like tactically proficient, I don't need to jump around nearly as much as I am. I can do a lot, you know, just by sort of moving laterally. And then, which I guess still counts as ground denial, like they're controlling my movement to a certain extent. But my point is that right now I am, because it makes it easier, I am exaggerating the amount that I have to move around. So if the game forced me to, I could get by with less of that. Additionally, the game makes it like really, I don't want to say easy, but it sort of puts me at ease and sort of makes jumping around like a crazy person my home in this game, right? With all of the wall jumping that I can do, infinite wall jumping, the double jump that I have, just fucking the way that Ori jumps around, like how smooth her jumps are. All of that just feels really good. And so the idea of jumping around like with multiple purpose in mind, jumping around to avoid projectiles and also land on things and also, you know, whatever, get to where I'm trying to go, that sounds like reasonable. That sounds like what the game is built for, and it sounds like it's going to be hard, and I'm absolutely certain that that's where this is going. It's going to be hard, but it's there's something sort of wonderful about like as a player doing the thing that the core mechanics are built around. And so when a game is hard because it's asking you to do a thing that is difficult to do within the context of the game, that gets frustrating. When I think Ori and the Blind Forest gets hard in its like platforming and dodging projectiles, that's gonna be like, it might be exhausting because I have to do things a million times, but it's gonna feel like playing Ori and the Blind Forest. It's gonna feel good because jumping around in this game always feels good. So I think that's a strength of it. Like, it knows a lot of time was put into designing those mechanics and tuning all of that in the controls, in the levels, making it like really feel great to do that kind of action. So I mean, I think I'm looking forward to it, actually. Like, it will probably drive me crazy because it's hard, but I think it'll continue to be fun. Adam Prime wants to ask me a question about the Jinso tree, because maybe it will make me go back and play so that I can answer the question. Like you want me to go back and play right now? I don't think I'm gonna do that. Sorry. Good try though. That was like a noble effort. You know, keep at it, and maybe you will find my weakness. Here's one. In my opinion, a game that teaches you by showing you a puzzle to solve is playing with you, whereas a game that teaches you by killing you is playing against you. That I can work with that. That seems like reasonable. Ori is doing a lot of like in the same way that Half-Life did, at least for the first half of it. It does a lot of like, okay, here's the next thing. Here's what we're doing next. And that definitely feels like the kind of thing that a game that's playing with you would do. As opposed to a game that, like a lot of the adventure games that we play on Mostly Walking, like, here is an intractable puzzle. Good luck. That is a different sort of experience, and Ori definitely falls in the former category. I like that. I like that a lot. All right, this is the last one I have here. When I play games and there is a skill tree, I'm always sure to check if there's a way to reset the tree. Oh, interesting. If there's not, then I always read everything in the tree carefully when spending points. What are some reasons for not allowing the player to reset a skill tree? In Ori, once you spend a point, it saves it instantly, even if you die and go back to before you spent it. Do you think that was a conscious choice? I mean, I will, if you ask me, was that a conscious choice, I will pretty much always say yes. Because that's right. That's sort of standard art criticism. The sort of, you know, death of the author. We sort of have to assume when we are interpreting a work of art that every choice was a conscious choice. And I, as a designer, as somebody who teaches designers, this is something that I like try to pound into their heads when we're doing intro design, that you know, the final product that you produce is an amalgamation of all of the decisions that you make or fail to make. And so you don't want to fail to make decisions. You want all of the elements of the game to be conscious choices. Okay, so there's that. Skill trees specifically. So, okay, so what is the effect of not giving you a reset? And I didn't realize, because I almost always like immediately save my game after I choose something on the skill tree. So I didn't realize that it like auto saves, that it hard saves those choices as soon as you make them. So I mean, when we're thinking about what are the reasons for doing that, the first thing that we do is think about what are the effects. And the effects are creating a sense of finality, right? That you're making choices that you cannot rescind. Mechanically, that means that you have no room to experiment. You have no room to play with the skill tree, with the skills, right? With those bonus skills. And I could easily imagine that this is designed to encourage replayability, because when I go through the game, there are going to be skills that I looked at that I could have unlocked that I never ever actually see the effects of. That's not something that really is going to ever motivate me personally, but I think that there are people for whom that is a motivator, and they would say, like, I would really like to play the game using this different constellation of skills, and the only way that I can do that is to start over. And that's fine. Like, I don't begrudge the game for doing that. The other thing that it does is, like, that sense of finality, regardless of whether you are ever going to go back and replay the game, that's something that you feel every time you choose a skill, right? You are making a choice that you cannot possibly rescind. You are doing something that's final, that like has a immediate irrevocable consequence. I'm trying to think about how that meshes with the other sort of experiential elements of the game, because, you know, I talked for a bit tonight about how the game seems to be designed so that you can't get yourself stuck in a situation. Like, every situation you can get into has a way to get out of it, which seems like it's the opposite sort of experience as when you make a choice in the skill tree, that's now irreversible. I guess I would say that thematically there is something about this quest that that feels like you're doing something significant. And for me, I think it actually presented in this idea that, like, yeah, shit went down, and a lot of the light has been, like, lost in the forest, but there's still some of it scattered around, and it's probably doing some good. And so the decision for me and yeah, I was sent on this quest. Like, I didn't just, you know, decide to do this one day, but regardless, the choice for Ori to go around gathering all of that up and keeping it in one place where it is potentially vulnerable, because Ori is clearly vulnerable, right? I die all the time. I have no illusion about the fact that, like, I am a safe place to keep this valuable thing. The fact that, like, I'm collecting it all up, and that feels like it maybe is the only hope that the forest has, but also it feels potentially disastrous. This resonates with that, right? The way that the skill tree works resonates with that feeling. And so I think that it's intentional, and maybe it's intentional in order to give the quest a sense of significance, or maybe it's a result of the fact that, you know, they have done other things to give the quest a sense of significance, that they want to reinforce that. Certainly I think that the skill tree is the way that is designed, I would say, is to reinforce the sense that what you're doing has consequence, narratively, that like the larger picture of the story of the game is about Ori going out and doing something significant that has consequences. And that's like, there's not a ton in the mechanics of the game that reinforce that, because they are all serving different experiential purposes. And so I think that the skill tree is a place where they felt like they could, you know, reinforce that feeling and sort of, you know, buttress that up a little bit. This is, I mean, it's obviously all speculative, but all art criticism is. So that's my answer to that question. Okay, Thanarod is, I think, challenging me. Here's my last question. What is killing you? Going back to the idea of like games that play with you versus against you, and how like the game killing you might play into that. What is killing you except presenting you with a puzzle that you have to survive, which you're trying to solve? Is it mostly the severity of the punishment that we're referring to in this case, i.e. having save points where you can make nearby versus having long stretches between stationary checkpoints? Okay, so yeah, I think that factors into it. But here is what I would say. I am thinking of 3 specific games right now. I am thinking of Ori and the Blind Forest on one side, and I'm thinking of Super Meat Boy and Limbo on the other side. And the difference between these games is that I feel like I never have to die in Ori and the Blind Forest. If I were good enough at being Ori, I could get through I could just go through the whole game, and never die, and that would be possible. And obviously, I can't do that because I am a flawed human being, and I'm never gonna do that. And like I would never expect to be able to do that. But the way that the game is designed, that is possible, and I am always aware of the fact that that is possible. Every time that I die, it feels like I'm dying because of I don't want to say failure, because that sounds really harsh. That sounds like the primary experience of the game is of failure, and that's not the case. The game is actually very gentle, and part of what makes it feel sort of like it's playing with me is that it's nurturing. But every time I die due to some failure on my part. In Super Meat Boy, the first time that you play a level for the first time, you're gonna fucking die. Like, there's no way. I mean, maybe I'm just not good enough at that game, but I posit to you that the experience of that game is that the first time you play a level, it is going to kill you. And I would support this theory by the fact that the whole game is designed around that moment when you finally beat a level, and it shows you all of the times you died playing the level. Like, it is gonna kill you. Same thing with Limbo. In Limbo, there are explicitly, I mean, I would say it's the core mechanic of the entire game, is that it presents you with an unfamiliar situation and no way to sort of think tactically about it, It forces you to stumble into it blind, and it slaughters you. And then it allows you to go back and try again, knowing the way in which it slaughtered you the first time. That is a game that is all about the ways in which the game will kill you over and over and over again before allowing you to progress. So, this is you know, an anecdotal definition. This is not like a good robust definition of what any of the terms that we're talking about mean, but I don't really have that off the top of my head. I don't have that handy, but that's sort of like what it means to me when we talk about a game killing you rather than guiding you through the experience of it. Okay, awesome. That was great. Thanks, guys. Those were fantastic questions. This is a great game. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, for hanging out in chat, for being part of this community, for asking fantastic questions. I love it. I love you all. This is great. I am looking forward to next week and continuing this game. I still have not looked up how long this game is. I feel like it's long, which I guess whatever. Like, let's see if we get bored of it at some point. But so far, I'm certainly enjoying playing it, and you guys are asking good questions, and that's pretty much all I can ask for. So yeah, I hope that it stays fun. We'll just keep playing it for as long as it stays fun. Awesome. All right, have a good night, everybody. Have a good day for those of you who are in different time zones than me, and I'll see you next time. All right, bye.